It's cryptic out there.
Welcome to It's Cryptic Out There. Today in this episode we travel to Hell Dark Aesthetics. It is a distinctive boutique located in East Nashville, Tennessee, specializing in taxidermy, oddities, antiques, and items that cater to the darker side of aesthetics. The store offers a curated selection of unconventional and edgy products, providing a space for those seeking distinctive and unconventional items to express their individuality. Hope you guys enjoy. If you would just want to introduce yourself to everybody that's listening.
Nice. My name is Micah Dean. I work at Hale Dark Aesthetics, an oddity store in Nashville, Tennessee.
How did this become a thing? Were you always into the darker, oddity stuff? Or was this was it a passion project of yours?
I grew up in a super churchy household.
Right.
And it was no horror movies, things like that. Mm-hmm. And that just always bummed me out. Because every time I went to the video store, I went straight to the horror section, and would just read everything because I was never going to be able to rent these.
Right.
And there was just always this love and passion for spooky stuff, scary stuff. I loved Halloween just right away. Mm-hmm. But I still didn't get to go trick-or-treating as much because it was go to the church harvest thing. Yeah. But so I had this urge for all this spooky stuff, but I didn't get my hands on it because I wasn't allowed to.
Yeah.
So, when I got to just, be my own guy and, move out of the house and stuff.
Have the freedom.
Yeah. I remember the first Halloween where I recognized, I can do whatever I want, man.
Right.
We can go buy all the horror movies we fucking want,
How old were you when you moved out?
I moved out as soon as I turned 18. As soon as I graduated high school. I love my parents and stuff, but I grew up in a dangerous, boring little town in the middle of the desert. Mm. It's a famous town. And you would think that it would be super cool, super artsy, but it's not.
Where is this?
It's Roswell, New Mexico.
Okay.
So, that it's kind of in the middle of nowhere in southeastern New Mexico. 3.5 hours from anything cool like Albuquerque or a city like Lubbock where it's big enough to maybe get some cool bands or something like that. So I just felt isolated for the majority of my upbringing. So as soon as it hit 18, I was just gone.
What struck your fascination the most that you can remember as a young kid? Was it the video store, seeing the covers of the horror movies, or was it something else?
I think most of the covers were awesome. And that was super eye-grabbing. Mm-hmm. But then some of the covers would suck, but then just the name, Blood and Donuts.
Right,
it was just wait, what's going on?
Yeah.
That was definitely it. But then there were some things that got to sneak its way in. Mm-hmm. Goosebumps I was allowed to get because it came from the Scholastic Book Fair. It came from the school, so it was cool.
Yeah.
But it was really just sneaking in the G version of the things I was reading about at the video store. You'd asked about oddities earlier.
Yes.
Yeah, I got to the oddities portion of my macabre obsession way later than everything else.
Okay.
I would say horror movies was the thing that kicked it off first. There was just always a passion for that. But it wasn't until years later where I was hey, you're allowed to go looking for spooky relics. Like you should embrace your nerdism here, because it is nerdy. It's like it's history meets horror meets macabre, and oh man, and it just opened up so many more doors. But yeah, that came a lot later. That was probably like the last key to fall.
See, I grew up kind of the opposite of you, which, I mean, we went to church and everything like that, but our mom let us watch the craziest shit growing up. I mean, at 5 years old, I was watching House of a Thousand Corpses, Rob Zombie.
Yeah.
But then, like, every Friday we go to the movie store, and like you, I would go to the horror section, and me and my brother would just try and find, like, the latest thing that would come out, or something that just was eye-grabbing, you know? Because nowadays, I like to collect old horror VHS tapes, and I noticed that you had some over there, which is pretty cool. Just because I was always fascinated by the artwork, walking through the video stores, seeing something crazy. I'm like, well, I bet that movie's fucking nuts.
Yeah, it was great. You could sell a whole movie rental just by a cool cover.
Absolutely.
And the movie could suck, and you would be like, fuck, man, but the cover.
Or so bad that it's good.
Yeah.
Too.
I mean, yeah, there's something so cool about that culture, especially like 80s B horror.
Yes.
Is that even though some of it is so over the top and so cringe, the effort that went into making that, though.
Yes.
The 80s B horror, you had to do. It's so easy to just like record something your own. You can get away with just doing it on your phone if you did it. Like, you could get away with it pretty easily on a budget. Back then, though, you just had to do so many crazy things. So I always appreciated a good B horror movie, a bad B horror movie. I love them all just because of what they went into.
I do as well, especially, for example, Evil Dead. The lack of budget that they had, but the creativity they were able to create with the practical effects, and I guess just the storyline as well. It was pretty gnarly at the time.
Yeah, Evil Dead, huge impact on me.
Right.
So we're talking about a lot of horror VHSs. I mean, this is what brought the dam down. So like, okay, so I'm not allowed to watch horror movies growing up. For some reason, though, we were allowed to watch Tremors.
Okay, well, that's a good comedy horror.
Yeah, it's maybe because it's like, you know, it's a creature feature. So, you know, Kevin Bacon, and our house loved Kevin Bacon.
Right.
So I was like, okay, Kevin can stay.
Makes sense.
But I mean, we had Tremors recorded off TV onto a VHS, so I didn't even have the full version.
Yeah.
But I wore that thing down,
Right.
and it had a significant hold on me. That might have been that and Ghostbusters might have really kicked off my whole love for the paranormal and spooky and weird stuff. But so that was as a kid. But that was like one of the only allowed movies. But then when I was like, I think my senior year of high school, someone I worked with at Office Max was like, man, you've got to see Evil Dead. And I just had no idea what he was talking about.
Yeah.
And he gave me Evil Dead 2. So not Evil Dead 1, but he gave me Evil Dead 2 on VHS.
That's crazy that you can remember this moment right here.
I remember the Tremors moment because it literally changed. I mean, you're 5, the path you're on. What am I talking about? But as a teenager, though, it was like, he gave me this, and I remember looking at the cover and being like, yeah, it's cool, you know. But then I got home and I watched it, and I mean, I was just at the end of it. It was just like, I don't know. It was like discovering you have a favorite color that you had just never seen until you were, 18 years in,
right.
And afterward I was just like, what did I just watch? And I just kept on watching it. And then I went and got the first Evil Dead, and then I just, all Sam Raimi, and then I just went down that whole, Bruce Campbell obsession. And I mean, it would be very interesting to see where my life would be if I wouldn't have seen that movie.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Yeah, Evil Dead, such a good thing.
It was like a turning point.
A big turning point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I guess when did you open the business?
So, Hail Dark Aesthetics has been open for 11 years and some change.
Wow. That's awesome.
So, J.D. Tucker, he's the owner. He moved here from Houston. I started out as a customer, and it was when Hale was in its original location on the other side of East. Very, very small, but it was very, very dead.
How'd you find it?
Just by random.
Random?
Yeah. Just by random. I heard they had some spooky stuff in there, and I was like, oh, this is great. And then I realized what it was, an oddity store, and there's just not a lot of oddity stores. But then they moved over here, and I love everything that is in this store's inventory. And I want it. I love decorating. And we just started a relationship because I would be like, well, I have this art. And he's like, oh, that art would sell well in here. I was like, well, how about we trade for like store credit or something like that?
So you were a collector before meeting Hale?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And and it was just a little bit of everything you see in this store, whether it's horror posters or like, a cow skull, or, like grave markers, just horror books. Yeah, this was my world. And then to find it at, a brick and mortar store, it's just like, ooh, I'm with all my guys.
Right.
And then there's other people buying shit. And it's like, ooh, we have the same house. Like, this is great. It's such a safe place.
Yeah.
I originally started trading art to JD for store credit. And then there was like, there's a free Blockbuster box. Do you know anything about those?
No, but I did see it out there.
It's like a free library,
okay,
but just for VHS and DVD.
Okay, so that's still a thing going on? Okay.
Yeah, so there's a nonprofit called Free Blockbuster, and I built that Blockbuster box, and, JD was like, yeah, that'll be fun for the vibe of the shop. So we knew each other that way. Mm. And then this is why this store is so important to me. I really think there's some magic in this. Mm. Have you seen the movie Field of Dreams?
Field of Dreams.
If you build it, he will come.
Yes.
Okay.
I know of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's this, this dude, he gets told to, plow down his cornfield and make a baseball field.
Right.
Yeah, this voice tells him to do it. I had one of those moments.
Okay.
And it was before I worked here.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, do a art pop-up dedicated to the 1990s. And that's very much something I would do anyways, but it was like, you have to do it. So I started looking for a venue. I just listened to this voice. I didn't question it. Mm. And I couldn't find a venue that was we were just coming out of quarantine for COVID, and I don't know if it's always like this, but all the art places, all the art venues were 2 years booked out.
Wow.
And for some reason, I thought I needed it to be done a lot sooner. I don't know why. Mm-hmm. But I was like, oh, Hale would be a cool place for this. And at the time, the room back there, that's where we have our taxidermy now. That used to be the clothing section.
Okay.
And I was like, well, could I use this for this pop-up I want to do? And he was like, yeah, that would actually work great because I need to get the clothes out of here. We're going to throw the taxidermy in here. So that'd be good to just, sure. Mm-hmm. And within 2 days of me building the pop-up, he was just like, hey, I think you should work for me. There's something going on here, with what's going on between us. Yeah. I know this sounds like a rom-com.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that.
Right.
But where I was at in life was a very, very broken place at that time. I was just told that my 5-year-old son, I wasn't his biological father. And then divorce conversation started. And those two things alone are pretty hard times.
Yeah.
But then my dad calls me and he was like, "Oh man, I have cancer." And this all happened within like a few weeks. So that was a devastating blow, multiple blows. And this was around the time, I mean, I was working for some corporate whatever. I was in a very bad place. But I was just trying to stay sober. But man, I was just drained of any joy whatsoever. But this sounds silly, but whatever voice that was, where it's like, "Yo, do this art show. Just do it. Just do it. Everything else, something's gonna fall in place. Just do the art show." And all the venues, there were just none to go to, so I came here. And when he was like, "I think you should work for me," something awoke in me that had been asleep for so long. And I was already trying to heal with all the crazy shit that had just happened, and this shop ended up being the majority of that healing.
Wow.
And it all started just because of that art show that I did in the room. I became manager maybe within like a month and a half.
Wow.
Just because this place is just like my playground. All these nerdy years of just existing and liking this stuff, actually working at a store where people will come to you for that knowledge.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God,
I want
this is a dream.
Yeah.
I get to live the dream. It's amazing.
Yeah, that is a dream come true. That's awesome.
So yeah, this store specifically, it's more than just all right, I get to work at a cool place. There's a little bit of magic
There's
here.
more love to it.
Yeah, it's pretty deep. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome. So how do you go about sourcing such diverse collections of oddities?
Have you seen Pawn Stars?
Yes.
I think a lot of the world knows what Pawn Stars is by
Right.
now. It's very spooky Pawn Stars in here.
Yeah.
I'll be working at the counter. There'll be people shopping. Someone will come in and just be like, "Yo, man, I just came from Boston. I got 2 huge wasp nests that I just cut out of the Boston forest. Do you want them?" And it's just some dude in a cowboy hat holding up just 2 huge wasp nests. That's kind of like a regular day.
Okay.
Just people will come in. Some of them we have relationships with.
Yeah.
Some of them are in the taxidermy community. Some of them have land and all these animals will just die on it naturally, and they'll just bring us bones.
Wow.
Consistently. And we'll buy them.
Yeah.
And it's just something dying on their property. So there'll be people like that we see often.
Uh-huh.
But there's so many just random people of "Yo, I bought a storage unit blindly."
Yeah.
And it had all this spooky shit in it. There's a goat head, a Ouija board. Do you want it?
Yeah.
And we'll be fuck yes.
Have you ever gotten concerned about an individual coming in here with certain things?
The item itself or the vibe of the person was
Both,
off?
I guess.
There's definitely been for regular retail situations, there have been a couple people where I'm ooh, I don't know if I like them in the store.
Yeah.
But that's just because of certain things that they're doing that's always associated with theft. But as far as vibes go, where it's just ooh, okay, what's going on? There's only been a couple times, and it's been very minor. There was nothing crazy that happened, but it was very much just all right, just kind of keep my eyes on this kind of just pay attention, I guess, to what's going on in the room. There's been a lot of customers because we're the only oddity store for a while around. The customers, it's just a community. Mm-hmm. Everyone kind of knows each other, and people come here often for that stuff.
Yes.
No, but like one lady came in and she was just like, hey, okay, I got these things as a gift, but they're from my ex. And it's a hail shirt. And it was something, it was maybe like a coyote skull or something we have plenty of here. They're like, I want these things, but because they came from her, she's a witch, and I'm pretty sure she put a hex on them.
Whoa.
So, because that's those actual items, that harms me, but it won't harm whoever if you take them and just give me a fresh shirt and a fresh coyote skull.
Wow.
And it was like...
Did you take them?
We took them. Yeah, it felt fine.
Yeah. Well, I guess my next question is, what is the most unusual item you ever obtained?
Oh, man. Let's see. I don't know if I can answer that in a good way. The things that I find unusual, I'll just look up and do a deep dive, and it turns out that they're actually like quite common.
Okay.
You learn to do like a lot of research and stuff here, and so I don't know if I can say. I don't know if I have any on the shelf right now of like, oh, that's like this is the most unusual thing. I know some of my favorites. One of my favorite things that ever came in was a padlock from an insane asylum in New York.
Wow.
And it was all patinaed because it was just so old. Like it was like 1800s old.
Yeah.
And it was a padlock, and it had the keys that worked with it. And your mind just starts going places when you're holding something like that.
Like the history, the energy that was...
Well, it's like this is a lock. And those types of buildings were to lock these people who were, misunderstood or... I mean, at that time, how they would diagnose people was just so over the top and just so sad.
Lobotomies type stuff too.
Yeah, and it's like this lock locked up something. Was it just like a toilet paper closet that it was locking up, or was it something way sadder?
Well, has an object ever scared you like that?
I have never had an object come in here where I'm just like, ooh, this thing, I don't even want to touch it.
Yeah.
We have had haunted items in this store before. The item that gave us the most trouble, whenever I handled it, I wasn't like terrified or just like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
I went in though like super respectful because of the continuous complaints we had about it.
Oh wow.
So it was just like, all right, I'm moving this now and I'm being gentle.
What was it?
Dude, it was a Victorian hair wreath.
Okay.
Do you know what that is?
I mean,
do you know anything about the Victorian era?
Yeah.
So they were just super extra.
Right.
With like everything that they did.
They had something for everything, it seemed like.
Totally. And it was always a little outlandish, like a lot of food at one sitting, So a Victorian hair wreath, a mourning wreath, if someone was dying, they would have this wreath, and sometimes if the person was like they weren't dead yet, but they knew they were on the way out, sometimes that person would be making their own hair wreath. But after the person died, that's how you remembered this person. You had a wreath. Sometimes it had their belongings thrown in it, whether it be buttons or clothing, but most of the time it was like hair, human remains that were like intertwined within this wreath. And then it was usually like framed. The one that we had, it was framed. It was behind glass. We had gotten in 2 of them around the same time from 2 different people.
Did they have hair on them?
They did have hair on them, and our owner did his diligence look-see into them, and they were both like genuine era Victorian hair wreaths. So we had them in our back room with a lot of our other funeral stuff. and like just medical tools and stuff like that. I had just started working here, and I started getting a consistent complaints. People would just come in, and they would break away from their groups, or they would just come find me, and they'd be like, "Hey, if I'm in one certain area of your shop, and my soul feels like it's being crushed. Like I feel so nauseous that I feel like I want to throw up. It's just like a heaviness. And they couldn't explain it. And it just happened so often. Every time I was like, tell me to where I'll follow you.
Yeah.
Tell me where it is. And it was always to the same corner. But because this is an oddity shop, there's just so much shit everywhere. Right. There was literally so many things on that wall, including the 2 hair wreaths. So I kept on getting this complaint, and I was like, fuck, I wish I knew what it was, because like this is like a Goosebumps book all on its own.
Right,
you know?
right.
And then my friend Tori, she is a ghost tour guide. She's a badass, and she loves all things paranormal. I was telling her about my situation, and she was like, you need to reorganize that whole area. And then if the concerns keep on coming in, it'll take you to that specific thing. So I remodeled that whole area. I split up the hair wreaths. I split up all the other objects that were on the wall, and the complaints didn't skip a beat. But now they were taking me to this one Victorian hair wreath.
Gotcha.
So then, now that I knew what piece it was, I was like, JD, our owner, I was like, hey man, we've been getting complaints about this. How did you get it? And he was like, a girl walked in, she put it on the counter. She said, it's haunted. Get it away from me. And I was like, dude, wait, what?
He didn't tell you.
Yeah. I was like, do you know how many complaints that like I've taken about this one item?
Yeah.
And the other staff member here, she was getting the same complaints the times that I wasn't working here.
Yeah.
So I like drilled the owner, and because I was like, dude, did you ask her all these questions? I think he's just been in the game so long that he's probably heard that before.
I'm sure. Yeah.
He was more or less just like, I just wanted to make sure it was a genuine Victorian hair wreath. I checked, it was. So that's all I cared about. So we didn't have this girl's info. Like she had purchased it and left. So it's like, oh, we don't know what this wreath did to this girl, but
Gotcha.
It made the girl bring it here and say, get it the fuck away from me.
Did anybody buy the wreaths?
Oh man, this story gets crazier and crazier.
Let's go.
Like, so we can't find that girl. The complaints continue to come in. And then one of the times though, I think it really shook us up. A group of adults came in. One of the ladies was just super happy, and she went straight to the back room where the wreath was. And then the next thing I know, she's running out of that room, out the door, and she's crying her eyes out. And one of her friends from the group goes to check on her, and then her friend comes in. She's like, hey, sorry about that outburst from my friend. She's a medium. And it turns out she saw the ghost you guys had back there, and it really freaked her out. And I was like, wait, what? We've had so many complaints about this thing, but no one's seen it.
Yeah.
Can I go talk to your friend? And she was like, no. My friend is not doing good out there. Like, she is taking this, she is fucking freaked out.
Yeah.
I wanted to respect it. I wanted to respect her privacy. So I just kind of gave her the backstory up to that point, and I was like, any information might help us so this doesn't happen to someone else.
Yeah.
You know, maybe we can get this thing out of here. So she went and talked to her friend, came back. She was like, this is the only info I can tell you. It was a woman, long hair, old type dress. We've heard that before, but she was like, it's a woman, and her name is Heather, and she's very confused. She has no idea why she's here. And once I heard that, I was like, oh man, she's confused. You hear all these different stories about ghosts or whatever, and it's like, oh shit, we got a sad ghost. Like, what's going on? Let's get her some help. So yeah, I'm like, okay, what are we gonna do? And before we can find anyone to come do this like crossover ritual, I guess, that our attic door in our taxidermy room, it was just open one day. And you can't reach that attic door from the inside of the building. Like that one room over there, it's really, really weird. You could only open that door from the bottom or if you were inside.
Wow.
And it's not like a little door, like you have to like push it up 5 inches before you can even move it over.
Wow.
And this thing was just open.
Yeah.
But there's so many taxidermy antlers jolting out from the wall underneath that, that it's like, it would be very hard to even get up there. The ladder to get up there, it's like, I think it's like 12 feet or something. Mm-hmm. We have no idea how this thing got opened. And it really freaked us out. And none of the dust up there was disturbed. So that mixed in with the woman crying and all the complaints, we were like, man, let's just, we got cameras in the shop, or added cameras, I guess. And then we hired a medium through a friend that we knew who does crossover rituals. And I told her the whole thing. We did this ritual in the shop. We made an altar. This medium was guiding me and a small party of people to do this crossover ritual. And I told her the whole story before I went and got the wreath. Yeah. And the medium was like, I know you're saying she's like confused and all sad and stuff, but just go get the wreath. We'll just see. And then when I brought the wreath out, the medium was like, whoa, this thing isn't sad. This thing wants to be here. Like this thing knows what we're about to do, and it's kind of pissed off. So this is going to be a different night than we thought. I thought it was going to be like, man, let's find out where she was from. Let's send her packing. Like, do you want us to return the wreath to like your family member? And it turned into like trying to like wrestle this thing out of here. But we got it out. We did the ritual, and the medium signed her symbol on the back, and the store felt so lighter, and it was so amazing after that. And within 3 weeks, the item sold.
Wow.
And the people who bought it, I was just like, I feel like I have a responsibility. To tell you all these things, and they're like, we know. We already know about this thing.
What?
Yeah, because I had posted a story or two, but like people were coming in to like hear the ghost story basically, or hear the most recent version, because it was always like someone new complaining about something. So yeah, they sent me a picture though. When they got home, they hung it and they sent me a picture. All the complaints stopped.
Wow.
Like after we did the ritual, we'd never had that complaint again. I don't know.
Do you think it was like some type of negative energy with it? What's your take on the paranormal?
Well, the medium who did this crossover ritual answered a lot of my questions.
Yeah.
And now I have, I guess, a fresher take on it. I know there are things that we just can't explain. Yeah. For a while, I mean, especially growing up in church, it's like, no, ghosts aren't real, or, there's just heaven and hell, and like that's it, or whatever the fuck. But I mean, yeah, man, I was just like, man, there's just so much shit we can't explain. Like, and you know what? I fucking love ghost stories. I love the campfire thing. I love Are You Afraid of the Dark? You know what? I believe in ghosts. Yeah, you know what? I do. And but when this Victorian Harry thing happened, the medium who did such a great job with the ritual, I was asking her some questions, because I was like, hey, the people who would complain to me, it wasn't just girls, it wasn't just guys, it wasn't just old people, it wasn't just young people. There was no consistency. The only thing that was consistent was that they felt extremely nauseous and wanted to puke and felt like their soul was about to explode. Yeah. And she was like, yeah, ghosts. It was very Beetlejuicy how she said it. She was like, ghosts have no good intentions for the living. They just want attention. They just want attention. It would go after anyone in that in the shop, but I mean, if they're not going through something that's like, they're looking for the most vulnerable person. Yeah. They can impact the most vulnerable person. So that's why some days I didn't get complaints at all. But then there would be other days where someone just happened to be going through some extra shit and the ghost attacked that.
Fuck.
That's how this medium was explaining it. I was just like, oh, fuck, man. Well, like, so what happens when I feel my grandmother, like, near me? And, you know, like, isn't she a ghost? And the medium explained it in a way of, like, you know, when you die, your soul basically has so many days here on Earth, and it just takes care of, like, unfinished business before it crosses over and goes and does its thing.
Gotcha.
If my grandma, God bless her soul, wants to come and visit me and stuff, she's already over there. If she wants to, I'm going to go check on my grandson. She'll come and she'll be close and I'll feel it. I'll be like, oh, what the fuck? See a butterfly, whatever that, you know. That's how the medium explained it. Like, gotcha. You know, like, yeah, they can come and, you know, check in on you and stuff. But that's not ghosts. But like the ghosts, the ones who decide to linger. And they either get confused and need help crossing over and they just got stuck, or ones were just like, fuck it, we're just gonna stay here. And those are the ones where it's like they're not supposed to be here.
So you think the reef, that's like one of those?
With everything that I saw and went through with that reef, that's what I land on with that. Yeah. And you know, there's been other stuff that's happened in the shop that's ghost story related, that's like super dialed in and narrowed down, where it's like, fuck, man, another ghost? But it had nothing to do with that one, you know? Yeah. They weren't like getting into fights and stuff, you know? Yeah. So I will be here for 3 years next month. I believe it's been 3 years. And there's just so many witchy people, medium people, people with paranormal sensitivities who just come in.
That's what my next question was, like, who's your typical customers, like locals or tourists or collectors even?
So it's really a little bit of everything. Yeah. Tourists come in and the first thing they say is like, I just typed in the weirdest thing to do in Nashville and you guys were number one. Tourists come in all day long. We have our regular customers who, if they live somewhere in the Nashville area, just like, you know, oh yeah, just wanted to get a new taxidermy duck. I know you guys always have them. Yeah. Or do you guys got a bat and lucite? Yeah, you guys always have my shit. Okay. And we see them on the regular basis. And then there's just like a lot of out of town people. And, you know, there's not as many oddity stores, brick and mortar, as you think. So a lot of people who travel who are into oddities or macabre will just try to seek out that store. And then they'll come in and they'll do their thing, and then they'll nerd out with the other nerd who's running the store. And then we just sit there and talk all day. And they're like, oh, well, have you been to this place in Philadelphia? And I'm like, no, but I heard about that from the guy who was just here. But have you heard about this place? And then everyone's just swapping stories. Yeah. And that's, I mean, and yeah, when I travel, that's like one of the first things I do is try to like find an oddity store. So we have those kinds of customers where it's just they're on their constant journey, you know. Yeah. Then there's like I've learned truly not to judge any book by its cover. Yeah. Because this happens often. Like a beamer will be showing up and then a yoga mom from Franklin will get out. Okay. And it's like, okay, well, Beehive's next door. Maybe she's coming to the wrong place. Yeah. And then this woman was literally like, she just walked in. She was like, okay, I need a shrunken head. I need some medical tools, probably like around 60s though, because that looks like way cooler than what they look like now. Whoa. And it's like, well, we got these goatskin shrunken head. Like, but you would have never guessed that this would have been, you know, like... Yeah. We love our goth people who come in here, but I mean, a lot of our customers are, you know, someone who would look like a yoga mom from Brentwood,
Wow.
who was just into like cool, spooky, oddity type shit.
Yeah.
And I love it.
They're just hiding from their true self.
Yeah. So it is, you know, we don't get a lot of religious people.
Right.
That's the one thing.
Mm-hmm.
We have a section with like cool vintage old religious stuff. People love that section. We love it. But I would say that would be the one thing missing is just religious type church folk.
Have you had any like backlash from, like, I guess, I don't know what the right word is for individuals, but
it's been, I wouldn't even call it backlash. I asked the owner very early on when I started working here. I was like, dude, tell me the stories.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you were the one who created this place, so there's got to be all this, like, this, you know, bullshit you probably ran into with, like, protesters or something. He's like, dude, it's never happened.
That's amazing.
He was like, we didn't. I think he initially thought, like, this place isn't going to be open more than 6 months in the South.
Oh.
But it did.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people down here want this,
Yeah.
and people come here for this, and there hasn't been a protest. People don't come in and are just like, oh, so blah blah blah. Like, there's none of that bullshit. But there was one time, and this happened, I think, within the last 6 months.
Okay.
A lady walked in and she gave us like a dozen Krispy Kreme donuts, like in a box.
Okay.
She's like, hey guys, I just want to give this for you. And it was like I wasn't working at the time, but this was in the group chat. And the person was like, okay, thanks, you know. And then you open it up and there's this Post-it note. And the Post-it note is just like, I forget what it actually said verbatim, but it was just one of the condescending verses where it's just like, by the way, Jesus has like the last say or whatever he will, I don't know.
Yeah.
The wording on it was just very much like, yo, we have our eye on you, basically. And everyone was like, what the? Everyone thought it was funny. I was fired up because it was like, you know, I guess I get triggered by that stuff because I grew up in the church and I never really felt comfortable there. So now it's like, oh, God, they wrote this down. But then I was like, you know, I'm a big stoner and I saw the donuts. And nobody wanted the donuts because they thought they probably poisoned them or something.
Yeah.
And I totally picked up those donuts.
Were they good?
They were really good. So I, if you're watching this, I thank you for the donuts, but you don't have to leave notes like that. That's dumb. Come have a conversation.
Yeah.
You know.
Or just mind your business.
I don't know.
Yeah. So tell me more about the mini oddity museum you got back there.
Man, I love that thing. So it's did you grow up with Indiana Jones?
I watched it, but I wasn't big into. I was probably more into Star Wars.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I love Indiana Jones.
Mm-hmm.
I just grew up with it, and then after a while, I was just like, "Oh shit, man! Maybe this is why you like it so much. Like the historical value,
Artifacts.
Yeah. The things. A lot of the things that we have in here are well used and it's some kind of antiquity. And the stories around it are just fucking ferocious and silly and nuts and spooky. And we just had a lot of it that we were like, man, we're never gonna sell that. Like, we don't want to sell it. That's too special of a thing.
You just want to keep it.
Yeah. And we had enough of that we're like, dude, why don't we do a little museum? And, you know, we had the room that the wreath was in. We called it our funeral room. There's like a big, like 8-foot opening into that room. And what really started all this was the owner was going away on vacation. And before he went on vacation, he was just like, man, the confessional we have in the back room, it's just like in the corner. Wouldn't that be so cool if we could like find a way to like make that into like a secret door and like
cool.
hide it in the shop or something?
Yeah.
And it's just like random talk.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, maybe one day. And then he left. And I think I started building that night. I love building shit.
Yeah.
And I've done secret doors before. And so this confessional that we had in the back room, I pulled it all the way forward. I took it apart. I made it into a secret door. And I covered that whole entranceway.
Yeah.
And the owner came back and he was just like, oh my God, I didn't know you were actually going to fucking like do it.
Yeah.
And then, so, it was just another room, but we had a secret entranceway. And then we started, so we were like, yeah, that's just really cool. Maybe we could do something cool with that room. And then we started thinking about all the things that, man, we're never going to sell this. We've been offered ridiculous amounts of money for this, but it's too rare. You'll never see another one. No, we're just not going to do that.
Yeah.
So then we started focusing on what if we made a mini museum. And it's been a little bit over a year, but I love it. It's small, but it's super strong.
Right. I see a sign where it says, beware of the ghosts. Is there haunted stuff back there?
So a lot of people complain about that room. The Victorian Harrys, they lived back there for the duration of the time that they were here. So I get that. There have been mediums that have come into the shop and we're just nerding out. And I'll mention the Harry story and they'll, walk around. And then they'll just chime in and be like, yo, man, there's so much more going on in this store than just one ghost. There's a lot of stuff happening. And a lot of these mediums have said the same thing. And for some reason, a lot of it's back in that room.
Gotcha.
I can't put my finger on it. Things have felt so much lighter since things don't feel how they used to with when we had the wreath in here.
Did you have the wreath out of the set of it?
Were you
holding it?
It was always in the frame.
Okay.
It was like a really deep shadow box.
Okay, because I was just wondering if like a piece of hair fell out and it's still on the floor somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know. From what I understand, yeah, that thing was still pretty good.
Gotcha. So there's got to be something else back there.
There's got to be something else, and it's been multiple mediums saying the same thing, where they're just like, there's a lot more going on in the store than just like one or two guys. Like there's a crowd, and a lot of it's back there. So that's been consistent. But as far as like who they are or where they are, there was one other ghost that was seen by a medium, and this story is really kind of nuts.
Okay.
So a friend comes in, she brings in her friends from California. So a group of girls comes in, hey Micah, what's up? These are my friends. One of them's a medium. She's like, oh hey Micah, blah blah blah. I'm like, hey, we get talks about there being a lot of stuff here. Knock yourself out there. You just tell me, what you think. They go through the store, they laugh, they have a good time. Nothing crazy happens. She definitely says, yeah, the back room, there's a lot going on back there, but nothing like too mind-blowing or whatever. They leave the store. Bye, see you later. I get a call probably like 60 seconds later, and they're in the car driving away, but my friend is like, yo, the second we left Hale, a ghost, like something followed us to the car and started talking to whatever the name of the medium was. She's like, yeah, so we shut the door at Hale, we're walking to the car, and this spirit shows up, and he's got like a self-inflicted like gunshot wound. And he's talking with the medium, and he's like, oh my God, okay, you can, like, hey, you guys just left there. Where's Neil? Do you guys like know like a Neil? Like, where's Neil? We used to hang out all the time, and I haven't seen Neil in so long. And the medium and my friend were like, we don't know Neil. You need to leave us alone. You need to go back into the store. And this thing tried to get into the car with them, and the medium was like, hey, you don't belong with us. You need to go back to where you were. You came back from Hale, so you need to go back there. We don't know who Neil is. And the thing just like, just kind of, it either left or dissipated, whatever the hell. But they called and told me this story, and they were like, hey, do you know a Neil? What, like, can you piece this together? And I was like, I don't know a Neil associated with the shop off the top of my head. And they're like, well, do you know anyone at the shop who, like might have passed away by a inflicted gunshot wound? I was like, no. There has been tragedy in the past with people who have been associated with the shop before, but not through something like, not a gunshot wound. So anyways, I couldn't place it.
Yeah.
But I texted the owner, and I was just like, hey man, this is what a medium just told me happened. Does any of this make sense to you? And he was really freaked out. He was like, man, I'm really freaked out. Who told you all this? And it turns out one of the guys who was here at the beginning of Hale, his name was Neil. He was a good friend of the owner, and they made the store together. And Neil was at the store a lot in the early days, and then he went and started the second shop, which is the sister store. They're a separate store completely now. We're no longer sister stores, but when I was texting the owner, he was like, yeah, that's Neil.
Wow.
And I was like, holy fuck, what? Like, this confused ghost, like, oh, a medium, hey,
yeah,
Neil, what happened to the guy? Where'd he go? We used to hang out all the time. And it's, I don't know, that's just...
So you don't know, I guess, whole...
So we know who Neil is.
Yeah.
But we don't know the guy with the gunshot, or the self-inflicted wound.
Right.
Like, we haven't been able to put I've never run into that guy. I've also never run into Heather though either, if that was her real name. I don't know. But all these mediums are saying that there's so many things in here that I'm just like, okay, well, I'm just gonna try to be cool. And I don't know, but yeah.
Do you ever hear things when you're by yourself in here?
Man, I know stuff is here. You can feel it, but it's not drab. It's not, oh fuck man, I need to cleanse this place. It's, for me, it's never been that. There's been times where I've like shot a video for the shop or something, and then someone will be like, yo, you need to replay that and look at that shadow happening. There's been stuff like that where it's like, okay, there's like spooky stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, there hasn't been anything with me directly, like,
I need to get out of here.
Yeah, where it's just like, okay, shop, what the fuck happened? I don't know. Me and this shop have always gotten along really, really well.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, super. Yeah, and I want to keep it that way.
Yeah.
But I try to be respectful of whoever's in here or whatever's in here. That I try to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So.
Well, we'll wrap this up real quick, but I guess, where do you see the shop at in the future, like in the next 5 years? Any big projects around the corner at all?
Man, we want to do some cool... We want to expand the shop in this location as much as we can while we're still here. East Nashville, just Nashville in general, is constantly changing, real estate wise, stuff like that. So yeah, we definitely have some plans of just like more private events, more cool exclusive things, and then just also more things that everything can go to. But I know where I would hope we would be in 5 years. I love our shop, and I love how special it is, and I love the things that we bring into the shop. But it would be really cool to see a handful of Hales, you know? Oddity stores, there's not a lot of them. But it would be cool to see a lot more, because there's so many people who come in and they're like, dude, I drove 9 hours to come here. Yeah. Like, we add you guys into our vacation every year because we have nothing like this where we're from. It would be cool to just like expand and have something like that. I don't know.
Thankfully, I live like 25 minutes away from here, so not far.
Yeah, not far. But that would be cool to see.
Yeah.
But I don't know. The things that I would want for this store, I already get to see on a daily basis. Some of the kids that come in here know more about bones, or can nerd out with you about stuff more than some of the staff.
Yeah.
Like, it is, and their parents are there, and they're just like, yeah, my kid likes weird stuff, and I'm gonna support that.
Right.
And I love getting to see that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I love getting to see the old cranky people come in. Just witchy people, gothy people, freaking Franklin Yoga Mom people. Like, I don't know. I love what I get to see in the shop every day. But in the next 5 years, it would be cool to see more oddities in more places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you would like to plug the business, and if you got a website, Instagram, or whatever, if you'd like to share that to everybody.
Yeah, let's just see. I want to make sure I don't. Let's see. Yeah, you can follow @Hail Nashville on Instagram. That is our strongest and most favorite way we like to use social media. But we are also on Facebook. But yeah, you can slide into our DMs if you have something special and funky you want us to try to find for you. And we would love to talk anything creepy out.
Well, Micah,
Thanks,
thank you so
man.
much. I appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, dude. Thanks for hanging out.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody, for listening to the episode. Make sure to email the podcast at itscrypticoutthere@gmail.com. Send us feedback about the show or episodes. Give us your personal bizarre stories, and we will read them on the show. Follow us on social media, our private Facebook page, It's Cryptic Out There. Like and subscribe on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Please write a review. Give us your thoughts and opinions. And we also have a Cryptic Hotline, 615-447-8258. Thanks again. And lastly, watch your back. It's Cryptic Out There.